The Dragon Prince is really good, guys, and with the third season right around the corner, I thought it is time to reflect on exactly why this is. Sure, I can say that I love the show and that the Jerkface Dance is the most blessed thing in all existence, however, that's not going to cut it. Today, we'll be analysing the factors that contribute to making the Dragon Prince as fantastic as it is. What are those factors, you may ask? Well, oh yeah, spoilers. I'm going to expect that you've watched the first 2 seasons. You've been warned. Up first is the writing, and as any sad Game of Thrones fan knows, this is the element that makes or breaks a show. The theoretical glue keeping the theoretical building blocks of the show upright. A show may exceed everyone's wildest dreams in acting, set design, or editing, but if the writing sucks, the whole project will crash and burn. The Dragon Prince's writing is wonderful. Every step of the story feels like it has a purpose. There is no useless filler. The character motivations feel natural, and their development feels earned, for the most part. An example of the Dragon Prince's clever writing is how it utilizes the literacy rule Chekhov's gun. The rule states that all elements of a narrative must be necessary. If an object is introduced in the first act, the writer is promising their audience that this object is important and it must appear later in the story, or the writer will be breaking that promise. I can list multiple times where this happens in The Dragon Prince, although the first one that comes to mind is about midway through the first season. It occurs when the gang is trying to escape from some soldiers. General Amaya shoots an arrow at Rayla, and it catches a strand of her hair and slams into the tree behind her. It's a minute detail. The screen doesn't zoom in and give the audience an obvious metaphorical slap in the face, telling them to remember this now. Anyway, a few episodes later, Soren and Claudia are trying to locate the gang, and their search leads them to the same area where the before mentioned fighting took place. They look around, and lo and behold, Claudia finds the arrow that was shot against the tree with Rayla's hair still on it. This is such a satisfying moment because 1. It lets the audience know that the writers aren't going to forget any plot details, and provides an immensely satisfying feeling from the viewer if they remember the details from a few episodes back, and encourages them to keep adamantly watching so that they don't miss any future small details that may resurface as important plot points later on. Ultimately, the writing in The Dragon Prince is just really tight and well done. The last animated show that I watched with this level of good writing is Avatar the Last Airbender. I'm gonna be honest here. The characters in Season 1, while generally good, lacked nuance, development, and motivation. In Season 1, King Harrow is just a good dad for a bit, then he's dead. Or a bird. Wait, I did give a spoiler warning, right? Yeah? Oh, phew. In Season 1, Ezrin is a nice kid that talks to animals. That's it! In Season 1, Claudia is just an idiot. Do you see where this is going? Basically, many of the characters in the first season were okay, but nothing special. They were either confusing, like Viren, or dull, like Claudia. There were some great characters. Rayla is just, oh, she's the best, but more was needed. Alright, let's move on to the next section. Nothing more to talk about here. What? You mean to tell me that there is one character that was introduced in the second season that changes the show for the better and will have dire consequences to both the world and all the characters in it? I don't know what you're talking about. I can't keep this up any longer. I'm talking about Aravos, of course. He is such an evil character and has a creepy presence, and yet I can't feel but be completely infatuated by him. Honestly, Aravos terrifies me to my core, and he deserves his own videos. So I'm gonna shut up now and move on to the next bit. Okay, goodbye, yes, cool, let's do it now, yay! It is apparent that a ton of time and energy has been put into the Dragon Prince's world of Zadia and its secrets because it shows chicken shut up. It is apparent that a ton of time and energy has been put into the Dragon Prince's world of Zadia and its secrets because it shows. So far in the show, only the most basic of knowledge is needed to understand the story. However, if you search a little and go online, you can find so much more details about everything that is being revealed so far. There's an entire history before the events of the show, other kingdoms with their own cultures and legends, and all of this feels completely realised. I do hope that we get a detailed map in the future though, as now we only have a vague idea of where everything is. Although the lore is incredibly deep, and whether the topic is the magic system, the origins of dark magic, or the key of Aravos, one thing remains clear: the lore is deep and plentiful and beckons to be discussed. I'm no musician, however the music in The Dragon Prince is breathtaking. Rarely does a score, especially one that belongs to a show, manage to be as powerful and majestic as Frederick Wideman's soundtrack in The Dragon Prince. The music helps elevate the events of the story into incredible heights, using leitmotifs such as the main Dragon Prince theme that starts off slow but beautiful and gradually builds as the story progresses. Another example is Aravos' theme, it's so good. I'll leave a link to some of the music in the top right hand corner for you, there you go. Lastly, and perhaps most importantly, is the morals and messages that the Dragon Prince is trying to convey. There's the obvious ones of courage, heroism, and never giving up despite all odds. However, as the show progresses, the themes of combating death and the nature of family become more prevalent. The show explores the idea of the new generation being born into a world full of mistakes that their parents have made, with them being involved in a conflict that they never wish to be a part of, and to be judged on their parents' past actions. How they deal with this is explored through the show's main protagonists. Do they forge their own path, or do they desperately try to gain the approval of a parent? Dark magic is also used as a metaphor for the temptation of the easier way out, and affects the characters much like a real-world drug does. Representation is also a massive part of the Dragon Prince. Within the cast there is a deaf lady, a blind pirate, a dark-skinned king, and some lesbian queens. There's even a dog with an amputated leg. The best part of this is that all of these characters embrace their differences, however they are not defined by them. It really is quite empowering to see brilliantly realised characters that serve a representation purpose, as well as being amazing characters in their own right. All these characters were integrated into the story so seamlessly that I usually didn't even realise that they were representing a minority or marginalised group until much later. As a young man who himself has to face challenges regarding hearing loss, I cannot tell you how refreshing it is to see a deaf character that is both strong and multi-layered, who is not defined by their hearing at all. So here we are at the end. We're 2 seasons in, and The Dragon Prince is already one of my favourite shows. The writing, characters, world, music, and themes are all elements that come together to make the show so amazing. Shows like The Dragon Prince don't come around often, so it is important that we watch the show and let Netflix know that we want to see the whole 7 seasons plan in its entirety. So how about you join me as we watch the first 2 books in preparation for book 3. I have faith that Aaron Ehaz, Justin Richmond, and the whole crew will not let us down. I'm going to say something crazy, but if The Dragon Prince continues to get better and better, it may overtake Avatar the Last Airbender as my favourite show of all time. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to go and get some sleep. Who am I kidding? I've got to go and play more Fire Emblem 3 Houses. That game is far too addicting for its own good God.